Pour you anything to drink?
Not yet. I'm gonna wait.
Okay.
Alrighty, it is 7 o'clock. So I'll go ahead and get started with our announcements while anybody else might join us. So thank you, everyone. If you do not know me, my name is Zach Holmes. I'm the evening programs coordinator for Alachua Audubon Society, and you are in our evening program series. So thank you so much for being here tonight. Just a few announcements as we get started. As a reminder for the program itself, to please stay muted for the duration of the presentation. And if you have any questions, please hold them to the end, and we'll be able to ask those questions at the end of the presentation. So a few quick announcements for Alachua Audubon Society side of things. Thank you for everyone who attended our holiday social last week. It was really fun. Upcoming, we have the Gainesville Christmas Bird Count on December 17th. If you're unfamiliar with that, that is an annual count-up tradition where we get a good snapshot of all the birds within the 15-mile radius of Gainesville. If you're interested in participating in that, please drop me a line in the chat or send Alachua Audubon an email, and we can get you connected. If you're interested in seeing the count up but can't participate, or are participating but can't attend the count up at the end, the count up is basically where each section leader within our CBC lists the number of each species they see live. So you can join us via Zoom if you're interested. And that link is now on Facebook and on our website. If you have any questions about that, just please, drop me an email or a line in the chat and I can get you connected. Our next evening program is going to be on January 23rd at 7 p.m. It's going to be presented by Chris Finesh, who is a world-renowned tour guide as well, and he's going to be talking to us about flycatcher ecology, especially from some of those western flycatchers that visit us over here in Alachua County from time to time. Several pop up during our CBC, so it's a good timing for that. And one last announcement, starting in January, Alachua Audubon Society will be hosting a monthly photo contest. So more information about that to be announced very soon. So get your cameras ready and we can go ahead and have a really fun contest. The winners of those of each month will be announced at our evening program series. Okay, without further ado, it is my pleasure to announce our speaker for tonight and why you are all here. Ernesto Reyes is a field guide with E&T Birding Tours, a Cuba native, and today he is going to be talking to us about the birds of Cuba and all the biodiversity that beautiful island has to offer. So I will stop talking and hand it over to you, Ernesto.
Hi, everybody. So thank you very much to be here with me today, and just know something else about a little bit about our Cuban biodiversity. Okay, can I start right now?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm Ernesto Reyes, Cuban. So I apologize if my English is not enough good yet to tell you everything about our Cuban biodiversity, but I will try to do my best to show you our beautiful nature, and from plants to uh, different groups of animals, and finally to talk a little bit about our tours that we run in Cuba. We have been running in Cuba for more than almost 20 years already. So, okay. Oops. Sash. Something is happening.
Oop. Go ahead and just click on the PowerPoint. Can you hit the arrow key?
Yeah. We were trying that, and
It was working before. There you
oh,
go.
got it. Okay, good.
And if you could
So,
just potentially get a little closer to the mic, I think that would help. But just a little closer to the computer.
okay, what about now?
Sounds great. Thank you.
Maybe my microphone was. You hear better now?
Yep.
Okay, so well, uh, as you know, well, Cuba is the biggest island of the West Indies, after Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, or Española, and Jamaica. So our territory is the land of many um, very special biodiversity, with a lot of endemics, including plants and animals. So more than the about the more than the 20% of the island is included in protected areas. So we have many biosphere reserve, we have many national parks, and many different uh, protected areas under different categories. So our ecosystem can from, well, our ecosystem are include rainforests, uh, in mainly in the central part of the island. Well, sorry, in the western part of the island, the central part of the island, and in the east, where the main mountains are situated. And this is a national park or and biosphere reserve, uh, Alejandro de Humboldt, in the eastern part of the island, which is considered like the richest uh, biodiversity hotspot in the Caribbean. So, and this is part of one of the driest side of the island, near to or surrounding uh, um, Guantanamo, Guantanamo Bay, which is like a semi-desertic places. So, and this is another interesting ecosystem in our island that is part of Sierra del Rosario and uh, Viñales National Park. Okay, is a biosphere reserve too. So when you are there, it's like to be in the Jurassic Park. As all these kind of ecosystem are uh, in all these kind of ecosystem has been evolved a very rich uh, biodiversity, including our plants that we have more than 7,000 tree species and many other kind of ferns, lichens, uh, different kind of orchids, including those ones that you can see there are very, very tiny ones in the genus Lepanthes and Pleurotalis, which are considered like the smallest uh, orchids in the world. And well, we have, I am showing you this book of we have published this kind of, this book is about Cuban orchids, in which I have been published some of my pictures with about orchids. So here you have a reference about how tiny are those orchids in particular, which some species have just 2 millimeters to 3 millimeters long. And obviously all the others that are more common in our nature. Yeah, look at this. This is in the genus Lepanthes. It's very, very tiny. It's just about 3 millimeters. Uh, in Cuba, our national flower, our national plant is well, the the royal palm, but our national flower is the we call mariposa, and it's not an endemic species, but have a very nice history in the in, I mean in the history of Cuba, because the flowers was used during the colonial times for the women that to smell good, and in another way during the war within the war with Spain to send messages inside the flowers. So this is the reason, because it's considered our national flower. And obviously, uh, we have a lot of different fruits, because we are a tropical country, including cacao to plants where we get chocolate, uh, coffee, which is very popular in Cuba, and tobacco uh, to produce our famous cigars that are well known all around the world. But I am biologist, so and I like more the animals than the plants with the permits of the botanics. But so let's talk about our fauna, which is very rich too and very particular too. So in Cuba, we have well, more than 2,000 mollusk species, thousand of uh, insect or and thousand of arachnids, like arachnid in the groups, animals in the arachnid groups, and like a lot of spiders, and, and more than 7,000 insect species. That is in terms of invertebrates, all right? So in mollusks, we have those group in particular that are we call polymetas, because the genus is Polymeta, that are considered one of the most colorful land snails all around the world. Um, my first studies were based in mollusk. I I wrote my master thesis in the ecology of one of those species that is considered the very endangered species in our island. So here you can see different morph or color patterns, because the colors of these land snails changed due to the ecology of the species. Some they live in very uh, in rainforests where you can find those beautiful colors, or in very bright places where the colors, the, the, the main colors are yellowish or white, because it's so hot, and they use the color to, to control the temperature. So they are gorgeous, some of those species. And really, we have in Viñales, for example, one of the places that I was I show you before, one of the landscapes, uh, is very rich in land snails. Uh, we consider that just sometimes just in one mogote, or just in one hill, you can find more than 200 land snails just in one very specific place, which is, in terms of biodiversity, they are very, very rich. Um, well, uh, sometimes people think that mollusks are just they eat just fungus, but this one in particular, from this group, Oleacinida group, they are carnivorous, which is very interesting behavior in that group. And some others, like the Chondropomida group, that they have very complicated structures and they are very interesting. The ligus, they are in Cuba and they are in Bahamas and Florida too. In Cuba in particular, there are 5 different species of ligus, Ligus fasciatus, acatinus, and some others. And look at this beauty. This is an endangered species in the island, just live in one very tiny place in a very hard, uh, in terms of access, it's very hard to access to the place where you can find these kind of land snails. It's not a marine, okay? They live in the mountains. And look at this, it's a beautiful Biotocatella. More, well, Arachnida group, that most people don't like it because always people thinking uh, poisoned or venomous tarantulas or something like this. So we have more than 1,400 species in this group, and we don't have any venomous animal in Cuba, so you can sleep everywhere. Technically, you can live without tents or anything to protect for venomous animals. Uh, even, I mean, is very kind to be on the field because you don't need to be worried about venomous snakes or venomous spiders or scorpions. Yeah. Well, in this group, insects, we have more than 7,000 kind of insects. And just in butterflies, we have more than 100 species that are endemics of Cuba, and a few more that you can find in other places outside of the island. Well, let me tell you, I tell you that I am biologist, but I am photographer too, nature photographer. So most of those pictures are my own pictures. And most of them take it just in my gardens. Many different insects. Yeah, beautiful ones. Okay, the vertebrate groups. Uh, we have more than 1,000 fishes, more than, well, where you can see here, more than 1,000 fish species of fish. 23 of them are endemic of Cuba. Uh, we have about 63 amphibian, uh, in, I mean, frogs, and 60 of them are endemic. In reptiles, we have about 158 reptile species and 131 are endemics. In birds, we have more than, well, it's an old number, but right now is 414 species with 28 endemics and more than 35 mammals, uh, which is 15 of them are endemic of Cuba. More of our mammals are mainly bats and 2 other species that I would show you at the end of this group. Uh, well, for an amphibian, we have, this one is one of the most famous one because it's here in Florida is known like the Cuban tree frog. But curiously is, how you can see in the, we have about 63 species, 60 of them are endemics. So there are 3 species that they are endemics. This one, the Cuban tree frog, is one of that one that is not endemic of Cuba. You can find them in Central America and other places, and in the rest of the Caribbean. So we have some toots, I think 4 or 6 species of toots. All of them are endemics. And this group that is the Electrodactylus family that include one of the, or most of the smallest frogs in the world. For years, Cuba and Brazil, they has been like fighting to situate the or to break the record Guinness in frogs in terms of which is the smallest one. So Cuba have 2 of the smallest one that they are Esmintillus limbatus, which is, well, in the pictures looks like big, but this frog in particular have less than 1 centimeter, is about 0.9 millimeters, the adults. So they are so tiny. Here you have a very better relation view. So, and well, actually, our herpetologists, they has been finding more and more species in the nature and describing new species for the science. Reptiles is another big group with more than 158 species, and with so beautiful reptiles, or mainly from in the Anolis group, or Anoles, you call Anoles. Yeah, look at this beauty that is Anolis Santa Mariae, that is specific from a few keys in the north of the island. Or Anolis equestriidae, which is a complex of different subspecies. They are distributed all around the island. This is Anolis alisoni. Is one of our endemics. It's very common even in the backyard, and the species is widespread all around the island. And some other very weird Anolis, like this one that just live in the forest, but you can find them just between the grasses. We have a Camaleolis, another genus, which is remind you the very our dinosaurs, I think. Leiocephalus klinikowski is another species, Leiocephalus carinatus, and we have a few species of geckos. Some of them are so beautiful, and this one is in particular is very special because I found this species just a few years ago, and it was dedicated. The herpetologist that described the species was that he dedicated that species to me. So the name of this one have my last name. His name is Aristelide Reyesi. My name is Ernesto Reyes, so it was dedicated to me. So that is a special gecko in the Cuban fauna in my name. And we have many reptiles, snakes. This one is the Cuban boa. Some individuals could have about 2 meters, 3 meters, but most of them are just small boas and um, like this one, but we remember that we don't have any uh, venomous snakes. And obviously we have uh, crocodiles. Uh-huh. Crocodiles. We have the Cuban crocodile that is endemic of Cuba. They live mainly in fresh water. And we have the American crocodile. This one is Cocodrilus rombifer. That is the endemic of the island. Finally, birds. Uh, with more than 413 species and 28 endemics, uh, Cuba, um, we have, I mean, we enjoy a lot to go birding. This is is my favorite group. So this is the reason, because actually uh, is my hobby, is my business, is my life, and not only my life. It's my wife. She become uh, a birder too, and actually she's one of of the the I think that the only, not the only woman, but one of the few women in Cuba that um, she's leading tours, birding tours, and so all my family is involved in with birding and birds. So this one is a Cuban parakeet. Now I'm going to show you most of our beautiful endemic species. I focus this uh, pictures just in the endemics because we have 400 species in the island. Um, every year we are visited for uh, more than 120, I think more than 126 migrant species from North America. Most of them spend all the winter in our island. So this is the reason, because all the Caribbean islands are very important uh, for North American birds, because or they cross by the island to 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 the south, to South America, or most species they stay in our island during all the winter period. So they came just for breeding to North America, here in the United States, or or Canada, or even Alaska. So this one is the bee hummingbird. We have 40 species of hummingbirds in Cuba, uh, but just two of them are common: bee hummingbird and the Cuban emerald, that is widespread all around. And but we have records of the Bahamas wood start, and and we have records of uh, the ruby-throated hummingbird, which visit our island during the winter times. So this one is a male, and here you have a picture of the male and the female of our bee hummingbird, considered like the smallest bird in the world. So Cuba, if you want to see them, Cuba is the only place where you can find a bee hummingbird. This one is a male in a full breeding plumage. They are really beautiful when they are breeding. And this one is a female uh, feeding from. This is a fighter bush. Fighter bush is very important for them, because and not only for them. We planted a lot of fighter bush plants in our gardens, because we have a list of about 34 species of birds that they, in some way, they eat the the flowers, or they eat fruits, or they just get the nectar from the flowers from the fighter bush. Is Amelia patens is the species that is here in Florida too. You have two different species of fighter bushes. So this is a very important plant for birds. Our national bird is the Cuban trogon. I has been, well, most people say that this is one of the most beautiful trogons. I don't want to say that because I like all the birds. So in some way, all birds are beautiful too. So, but the Cuban trogon is, and is considered our national bird. Um, in my garden, we have next boxes. So they use, during the breeding season, they use the boxes to breed during the breeding season. So this one is just one of my birds, my favorite birds, to make picture of them when they are feeding the chicks and they are bringing food to the chicks. And this is it's not a perfect one picture because the face is a little, but uh, it's to show you how beautiful they are when they are doing the courtship. Sorry.
You're good.
Okay. The Cuban toddy. I have a very this is one of my first Cuban toddy pictures with one of my first camera. Uh, so when you see the picture, it don't have a very good quality, but uh, it's one of my favorite pictures. So, but here you have the toddy. We have one species in Cuba. Toddy family is just in the Caribbean islands. So there are just 5 species in the genus. One in Puerto Rico, two in La Española, uh, one in Jamaica, and another one in Cuba. We have quail dove, five, five species of quail dove in the island. And this one is the blue-headed quail dove, which is endemic. And we have a white-fronted quail dove that it was split from the gray front. Sorry, this one is the gray fronted that was split from the white fronted from La Española, Dominican Republic. So this one is endemic of the island too. They are found, they are so shy and they are mainly underground in the forest. So sometimes we need to make a big effort to find it, especially the gray fronted, because oh, oops, because um, the the blue-headed quail dove actually we have been working and I mean a lot looking for places where we can find them. And fortunately for us, uh, we are living in a little, very little town in the swamp, and they are all around. And sometimes they came from our patios, our gardens, just to find seeds or flowers or fruits in the garden. So this is a Cuban black hawk that was split from the uh, common common black hawk, because in Cuba the Cuban black hawk just live in the coast and is specialized to in crabs. Is very similar, almost the same that the common black hawk that you can find in Central America, for example, but you never will find this species inland like in Central America. We have two owls that are endemics. uh, oops, that include the bare-legged owl. Uh, in some books, you can find them like a Cuban screech owl, but finally, this species has been in different genus like Margarovias, Hymnoglaus. Uh, so um, finally is in Margarovias genus, and now is known like bare-legged owl. And we have the Cuban pygmy owl, Hymnoglaus laurensi, uh, which is easy or no, and is very common. You can find them during the day just perching and calling in the garden. We have two species of woodpeckers, the Fernandina's flicker, um, that usually are just on the ground looking for bugs and ants and this kind of food, and the Cuban green woodpecker. That both of them, well, the Cuban green is widespread in the island, but the Fernandina's flicker is located just in a few places in the island. So we have parrots, one species of parakeet, the Cuban parakeet. Uh, it was widespread all around, but actually is very restricted just to a few places in the island. We have one solitaire, the Cuban solitaire, that just live in the mountains in the eastern part of the island and in the western part of the island. Even when we have uh, that is very interesting because we have big mountains in the central part of the island, but the species is not found in the central part, just west and east of the island. One species of wren is the Zapata wren, which a very small area in Zapata swamp, the only place where you can find this species of birds. We have a family of warblers that they are endemic of the island that include the Oriental warbler and yellow-headed warbler. So, uh, and actually, just a few years ago, a friend of mine mentioned that he saw something that was like a mix uh, bird, mix like a hybrid. So, month later, uh, I found it. I found a location where both species are living together, and there is a hybrid of the species in the island. So even actually, if you in Eber, you can find uh, Eber Cornell recognize a hybrid between the Oriental warbler and the yellow-headed warbler. Those species, uh, they are how to say, they are not sympatric, they are allopatric species. Uh, the yellow-headed warbler lives in the western part of the island, and the oriental warbler in the eastern part of the island. This is a Zapata sparrow. That the name Zapata came because the first time the nominal species was found in the swamp, but actually there are three subspecies because uh, there is a population living in Zapata swamp, another population of a different subspecies but very similar that live in the north of the island in Cayo Coco Key, and a third subspecies that they are living or the location are in the semi-desertic places in Guantanamo, uh, and it's curious because the three subspecies, they use three different ecosystems. The Zapata sparrow, the subspecies that live in the swamp, they live in the grass, in similar ecosystem like the Everglades. In Cayo Coco, they live in the forest, and in Guantanamo, they live in very semi-desertic areas with cactus, and so it's very, very interesting. This is well, the first one was the subspecies of Zapata, and this one is a subspecies from Cayo Coco. We have a bullfinch, Cuban bullfinch, that actually was split from um, um, Grand Cayman species that was considered the same, but now are split. So we have a Cuban bullfinch. And we have the Cuban oriole. This one probably is an immature or a female, or just a female that is molting. So, because during the breeding season, they could be green. The female sometimes could be green. And we have a Cuban blackbird that is endemic of the island. And in the future, probably our northern flicker will be actually is a subspecies, and probably in the future will be considered like a Cuban flicker, and very similar to the northern flicker. In fact, we still consider northern flicker, but some different things like the voice, the vocalization are different, behavior in some way. Uh, our northern flicker, the rump is not so wide like here. So when you see them, you think that it looks like different. And even the spots are bigger than the the spot in the northern flicker that live here in North America. Well, I was telling you about our Cuban emerald that is a subspecies because live in other islands like Bahamas. Well, just in Cuba and Bahamas. And those are well, obviously the the Cuban emerald and the Cuban parrot. They are endemics of the West Indies that live in Cuba. Cuban parrot live in Cuba and Bahamas. Yeah. And we have the olive cup warbler that also live in Bahamas, and in Cuba also live, just only live, you can find them just in the western part of the island and the eastern part of the island. Even when we have mountains, like I told you before, in the central part with the same ecosystem, with the same pine forest, they are not found in the central part of the island. And Cuba is the house of, for a long time was, I, I say a long time because actually we need more study to know if uh, the breeding population of flamingos are still healthy to with a huge number. But for a long time in the central part of the island, it was a breeding population with more than 50,000 pairs. So it was a huge uh, breeding population in the central part of the island. And in fact, the population, flamingos population in Cuba is part of the meta population that are around of in the Caribbean and Mexico, in Yucatan, for example. We have records of individuals that has been uh, flying between Cuba and Yucatan because they have bands, so we can see them in Cuba too. And at the beginning, I told you that Cuba is like a stopover or for many migrants that they spend the winter in our islands, or or many shorebirds that they just cross by the island to go to South America, and obviously warblers that they are one of my favorite birds. And well, every year we have a, a checklist to update all changes or every uh, uh, species that are added to our birds in Cuba. So we have this kind of papers that you can find in internet and and get all the checklists of Cuban birds, and it's updated every year. And we have just a few species of mammals, 35 species. Uh, 15 of them are endemics, and especially this kind of this mammal, this is Solenodon. There are just two species in the Caribbean, which is Solenodon paradoxus from La Española and Solenodon. Oh, sorry, I forgot the name of our Solenodon. Uh, too much information, but this one is bigger than the Solenodon from, and it's beautiful. It's black, and they are very restricted to Humboldt National Park and the very remote places. And Hutia uh, is a capromis. There are 8 different species, sorry, in different genus of this kind of mammal in our islands. They are mainly, well, they eat fruits, flowers, etc. And bats with 27 bat species, including the Natalus lepidus, which is considered the smallest, one of the smallest bat in the world, and is one of our is found in Cuba too. So after this short presentation, and I want to introduce you to eBird, sorry, E&T Birding Tours. So my wife and me, we lead tours in Cuba, and with vast experience leading tours in the island. And so we use 24 seat buses, very nice, comfortable buses for our groups. Um, we always try to support local communities, and we take our clients to organic farms. We share experience with locals, farmers. Uh, we taste the fruits, very organic fruits produced in the farms. Um, we visit, our tours are include some cultural activities too. Uh, Even it's not burden. We take some time uh, to know about history, culture, and obviously uh, we do not miss the, the opportunity to visit um, the tobacco plantations, where the farmers they explain everything about the process, and you can smoke cigar and taste the rum. Obviously, if you're in Cuba, always you will drink rum and mojitos and everything. So our tours is a kind of fun. Uh, we enjoy our beautiful birds, and we have fun too. And most of the time, we visit our gardens. Now, this is in my house where I invite my clients and my friends to join us and uh, taste uh, the coconuts from the gardens and see the birds that always are around. And this is my wife, my partner, and and like me, Chile tours in our island. So here you are all our contacts. So by the way, Tanya, my wife names is Tanya, and me, we are always on the top. Uh, we are in the top 10 e-birders in the Iceland. So if here you are my contacts, and I will be around here in Gainesville. So it will be probably in the future. You will have opportunity to meet me, or some of you meet me already here in Gainesville. Um, and I will back to Cuba very soon because I will be leading tours for 4 months there. So, but I will back. So it has been a great pleasure. I want to say thank you to Alasha who want to bring me the opportunity to show uh, our Cuban biodiversity to you. So you have questions, we have 10 minutes.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much for that great presentation. It was a
Thank you, sir.
great overview of everything on that beautiful island. I'll go ahead and start our questions off, but as a reminder to all of our participants, feel free to pop your questions in the chat or raise your hand, and I will call on you so we can keep this in order. So, my question for you, Ernesto, is of the endemic bird species, are any of them of significant conservation concern? Are any of them have like recovery projects because they're endangered or anything?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, of course. In Cuba, we have, um, we have different institutions, obviously, and we have different societies, like a Cuban Zoology Society. I am a member of the Cuban Zoology Society. Um, we have a system for a national system for protected areas, and and there are concern about most of the endangered species. I has been participating in different expeditions in the island. We start looking for the Zapata rail. We have three species that really are uh, near the extinction right now, like obviously the ivory-billed woodpecker. For me, is almost considered extinct. But we have the Zapata whale that we don't have any record of the whale for the last 30 years uh, or more. I have been looking for the Cuban kite, which is another. It was considered part of the group of hoop. It was considered like a hoop-bill kite, but it was split from the Granada kite and hoop-bill kite. So now it's a Cuban kite. Um, um, and yes, in other groups, absolutely, there is a lot of concern about um, how to protect them and how to keep them under some uh, yeah, protected areas to, for, to avoid the extinction.
Thank you. Karen asked, do you have invasive species in Cuba?
Yes, that is that is a big issue too. And for example, the Zapata Zapata swamp is the considered like a third uh, wetland in well, the first wetland in the West Indies and the third one in America. Very similar to the Everglades, which the same problems. Well, not the same, but uh, uh, with invasive species like Melaleuca. These are species that is from Australia, I think. That has been invading the wetlands already. And yeah, other species that they were introduced for different reasons in the islands, already uh, are invasive, are considered like invasive species. Yeah.
Gotcha. Eric asks, are there different tours to different parts of Cuba?
Yeah, well, our tours, well, we lead tours mainly, we cover almost the half of the island. But in another way, my friend Johnny Ellis, she lead tours even to the east part of the island too. So she's active for the tropics. So to go to the east, you can contact me or her to go to the east part of the island or even to the west too. Uh, because my tours are more focused just on birds with a little bit of culture. Um, and yes, we lead the tour. We cover almost the half of the island of our tour, from Viñales in the western to Coco Key in the central part of the island. So usually we lead tours for, well, our tours are 10, 12 days, uh, uh, 10-day tours. I mean,
Awesome. I don't see any other questions. Oh, here comes one. Okay, so this says Julie Gravas, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, did some bird surveys in the 1990s in Cuba. Do you recall her efforts or recognize her name? She was from the University of Michigan. Was Julie Craves or maybe Creves? You recognize that name by chance?
oh, I'm so sorry, but imagine have hundreds and hundreds of people every year in our tours, and um
Because this was back in the 90s, so a bit of time has passed.
yeah, I has been many workshops and expeditions, and is mainly if I see the face, I say, okay, I know you, but for names, oh my, I can't. It's it's difficult.
I bet.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Sorry.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you so much, Ernesto, for that amazing talk.
It was
This has been recorded, so this will be available on our YouTube channel in a few weeks.
it was a great pleasure, and hope in the future we can uh, do again with just birds. And so thank you for inviting me. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great one.
Okay. Thank you.
See you January 23rd for our next talk.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, Eric.
Yeah. Thanks
Oh
a
man,
lot.
I see your name just right now.
Well, I'll say thank you out loud
Oh,
to you,
Cherry.
Yeah.
Thank you for uh sorry, I in my I mean in my
Great.
screen I don't see your names, so thank you. So well, I will talk to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.